Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'll be discussing the effects of stress on Hashimoto's and the benefits of EFT with Rachel Turner from Rachel Turner Wellness.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
I haven't seen you for ages. It feels like that.
Yeah, it does feel like quite a long time. Um, how are you doing
So
with all the restrictions and the build up to
yeah,
Christmas?
we're okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, it's not much different to how it has been for some time. And we've
Yeah.
we've made our alternative plans for Christmas. How about you?
Um, my husband's going to be working about 3 hours from here, so we're going to be elsewhere for Christmas for a change. So it'll be different. So
That sounds good.
yeah. Um, right. So I'm just going to give a brief kind of overview of my struggles with stress and Hashimoto's and how it affects Hashimoto's, and then I'll give you an intro and hand over to you if that works for you.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be discussing the effects of stress on Hashimoto's and the benefits of EFT with Rachel Turner. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on my journey and how stress impacted my Hashimoto's and my symptoms. It certainly had a massive impact for me. I was always really easily stressed, and I had quite a quick temper growing up, and I found it really difficult to deal with my emotions or show my emotions, which led to me kind of suppressing that a lot until it eventually boiled over and kind of it was a huge meltdown. I was always super competitive, even with myself, and everything had to be perfect, and I was really unforgiving of any mistakes that I might have made. I never realised how constantly trying to attain these impossible standards was impacting my physical and my mental health. Um, I did a lot of things in order to try and get my health back. One of the first things I did was clean up my diet, and that got me a long way. It really did help massively with a lot of my symptoms. But I got to a certain point where it kind of plateaued and it wouldn't change no matter what I kind of tried changing with my diet. It wasn't until I basically addressed the stress side of things that this started to shift again and that I finally recovered my health fully. Um, and I can't stress enough kind of what a major change it was. So if we have a look a little bit about on the impacts of stress on Hashimoto's specifically. So stress can impair your digestion, which leads to dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of your gut flora, which leads to poor immune regulation, which is obviously an issue if you have an autoimmune disease. It can lead to multiple nutrient deficiencies, which again can be a big issue if you already are struggling because of an autoimmune disease. It increases your cortisol levels, which puts a huge burden on your liver. And the liver converts the majority of your T4 hormone to T3, which is your active hormone. So if your liver isn't functioning efficiently, it will lower the conversion of the T4 to T3 hormone. It will increase the conversion of T4 to reverse T3 hormone, which basically leads to a reduction in your metabolism. And it can lead to symptoms such as kind of low energy and fatigue, increased brain fog, increased inflammation and pain, increased weight gain, increased hair loss. It affects your temperature regulation. It also affects your mood and kind of your mental health. And these are just a few of the impacts that stress can have on Hashimoto's. So now I've given you kind of the basics on exactly what it does to Hashimoto's. I'm going to hand over to Rachel in a second. Rachel's had her own battles with autoimmune disease, and she's managed to overcome that and now supports others to do the same. And she uses stress management techniques and emotional balancing in order to help people thrive and overcome their illnesses too. Rachel is a functional medicine health coach as well as an EFT practitioner, among other things. So I'll hand you over to Rachel and let her explain the benefits of EFT and exactly how it works. Over to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Helen, and thank you for sharing your background with stress. And well, as you were talking then, a lot of what you were saying was it could have been me when I was younger. Obviously, we were diagnosed with different autoimmune conditions, but it's really interesting that I feel that stress plays a much bigger role than people may appreciate. And maybe that's because we don't appreciate how much stress we are under. Some people think they thrive on it because they're so used to it, it becomes part of them. Or we're not appreciating that the smallest things could be contributing to a feeling of chronic stress that we just keep living with. And it's that low level of constant stress that's the issue, isn't it? So
Yeah, for sure.
stress can be healthy in short, acute bursts. It can help our heart. There's parts of us that require it to have optimum health. But I think certainly in our part of the world, stress is just a constant, and that's when it gets out of balance and really can impact us in so many different ways. So yeah, one of the things that I found myself getting into was EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. It's also known as tapping, which may be more recognized by people that are watching. It's a great self-help technique, which is why I love it. You can pick up the basics quickly, and you use it yourself, don't you, Helen?
Yeah, I love it. It really, really is effective.
Yeah, so it's not one of these things where you have to go and see someone fancy for it. You can do the basics yourself, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute, so that at least you can start trying it and see if it can just bring down your stress levels. So how it works is it's scientifically proven stress reduction technique, and it's used by hundreds of thousands of people globally. It's been around for some decades, and it comes from another technique called thought field therapy. But EFT is one general algorithm of somatic tapping on specific points of the body. And what happens is it makes a direct connection to the midpoint of the brain, which is called the amygdala, which is about the size of an almond. And that is part of our fight or flight stress response in the body. So the amygdala gets fired up, tells the body there's a situation to be dealt with urgently, and then the cascade of effects go through the body. As you said, it affects digestion. It increases a hormone called cortisol. So as you start tapping, you're telling the amygdala to remain calm. It stops the action of the amygdala with the stress response. It reduces your cortisol levels quite quickly, within minutes in fact. Reduces your heart rate because, of course, when you're stressed, your body is getting ready to react to a danger. So it reduces your heart rate, and it improves your blood flow too, amongst other things. So oftentimes, if you've done some amount of tapping, certainly at the end of my client sessions, people generally feel incredibly relaxed or sleepy because you've dropped that cortisol stress response so much that the body has gone back to a much better state of calm, the rest and digest state, where you literally are resting and then able to actively digest, get your hormones back in balance, and just create a much better status for wellness. And it can be used for not just stress, but for fears and phobias, physical illness, chronic pain, relationship issues, giving up cigarettes or stopping nail biting, traumas from younger times, all manner of things. You can try it on absolutely anything. So after I've shown you today, you can always drop me a line if you've got any questions, but you can use that even if you just wake up one day and you just are fed up, or you're tired, or someone's making you irritable. You can just try it on anything and get yourself feeling great within minutes. So shall we get on and do a little quick session?
Yeah, I'll join in with you.
Okay.
Lead.
So Helen gave me a fantastic topic for this little session of self-acceptance, because it can be difficult, can't it? When you're in the you're surrounded by the diagnosis that you've been given and the symptoms, and you're trying to adapt to life, and that can be really ongoing, can't it, for a long period of time when you're really struggling with a flare-up of your symptoms. It can be quite hard. You can feel frustrated, very hard to accept yourself and many of the things around you, and how your life may have changed due to your diagnosis or your current symptoms. So I've based this little script around trying to think about how we sort of feel in that state. Your words may be different to mine. you guys that are watching. So if you ever wanted to repeat this and want the script, I can send it to you, but you feel free to change those words, because your words are more powerful than mine. So I've just kind of used things that I can remember feeling and trying to put myself in other people's shoes. So the tapping points I'll show you before we start. It's the side of the hand. You have these specific points on the body on both sides, so it doesn't matter which side you use, and you're only tapping gently. And you start on the side of the hand, the fleshy part, either hand. And I'll be saying some words and you'll be repeating them after me. Then we'll go to the top of the head, which is in a bit of a circle. Then it's the inside of the eyebrow and the outside of the eyebrow on the temple. And I tend to use 2 fingers for that to ensure that we do tap on the point that we need. Under the eye, right on the socket. And again, you can use both sides if that's preferred. Then under the nose. Then under the lip on the crease of the chin. Then if you have a little feel here, you'll feel these where your collarbone points meet and they're knobbly, underneath one of those or both. Then it's under the arm, about 2 or 3 inches from the armpit. I'll try and show you on the camera. And then we'll just finish across the wrist. And that will be 1 round of tapping. So I'll say the words, I'll give you a gap to repeat them after me to yourselves, and then we'll have a nice deep breath at the end of each round. And then you can check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. So Helen, you ready?
Yep, let's go.
Okay. So just start tapping on the side of your hand nice and gently, and just feel relaxed with your feet on the floor. Make that connection with the earth beneath your feet, because even just doing that can help you feel much calmer and much more in control of what's going on around you. So even though I don't know how to accept myself with my diagnosis, and I feel that this may affect my success, love, money, health and happiness, I would like to love and accept myself anyway. Top of the head. Some days I don't feel good enough. Inside of the eyebrow. I'm inadequate. I'm not healthy. Outside of the eyebrow. I have been told that many times. Under the eye. Sometimes with words. Under the nose. Sometimes with just a look. Under the lip. This makes me lack confidence. This knobbly collarbone point. Afraid to explore or express who I really am. Under the arm. I feel hidden and held back. Across the wrist. Unable to reach my full potential. At times, I am frustrated with my body. Then return to the side of the hand. Just take a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, just feel some of that tension leaving your body. You've been holding this stuff for possibly a long time, longer than you even realise. And now's the time just to safely start to release that frustration, that lack of confidence, whatever's coming up for you. So we'll go for another round. On the side of the hand, even though there is part of me which is struggling with my limitations, there's another part of me that wants to shine bright. Top of the head. What if I could take small steps into confidence? What if I could allow my wholeness to unfold with ease? What if I could feel healthy and confident? What if I could feel worthy, lovable, whole and energized? What if it will feel much better and safer to not place so much pressure on myself? What if I could relax and allow myself to feel safe? What if I could recognize that new, confident me as who I really am? Who I was born to be, regardless of my diagnosis. Life would be so much easier if I could just let go, just a little. Take a nice deep breath, continue tapping on the side of the hand. And obviously we can't speak to you all directly, but it'll be interesting to know what comes up for you while we're doing this tapping. It could be a memory from the past, a conversation you've had, something you feel about yourself that may not be true, but maybe all kind of bound up inside you, adding to all of the stress you're feeling that could be impacting your Hashimoto's. Okay, our last round. Even though I can't quite imagine who I'd be if I felt confident, worthy, and healthy, I can embrace that this is possible for me one day. I am ready to be my true self. I am ready to feel free, to choose to know I am whole, worthy, and absolutely good enough. I can allow forgiveness to myself. I can choose forgiveness to enable discovery and healing for my true self to shine. I choose confidence, even when I feel up against it. I am enough. I am worthy. I feel relaxed, calm, and complete. Take one more big deep breath. And then just take a moment to see if you feel any different now to how you did before we started. If you're feeling like your shoulders have dropped a little bit, or your breathing's got a little bit easier, your head's become a little bit clearer, you just have a better sense of happiness and relaxation. Because just in those few minutes, you're already making a difference to how your body is dealing with the stress in your life right now. You've acknowledged some bad stuff that's going on for you, but you're starting to put in, oh, that's great. Yeah, there's a good comment there. Yeah, absolutely. I swear by it. You know, you can change how you feel, and you can actually change your physical health by just using this simple technique. Back to you.
Yeah, it certainly it can make a big difference very quickly for me when I use it. It's one of my go-to techniques when I'm feeling really, really quite stressed by a specific stressor.
Yeah.
EFT is the first thing I go to because it just lowers it so quickly.
Yeah, and it's that nice feeling of empowerment, isn't it? You've got it literally in your fingertips, and you know it's going to work. I love it that even people that think it's nonsense, they still find it works. So there's no placebo effect. It's like over 80% of people get a big shift with EFT, which is one of the highest kind of success rates of any kind of therapy like this.
Yeah. And even like on the video just now, when you were doing it, I didn't repeat the words because I didn't want to kind of muddy the kind of video up and the sound link. But even just repeating it in your head has the same effect. It doesn't have to be out loud if you're somewhere where you can't kind of really, you can just tap quietly and kind of go through it in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you're feeling overwhelmed anywhere and you're out and about, or you're a bit cross with the person that's next to you in the kitchen, you don't have to say stuff out loud, just think it. Yeah, there's all sorts of ways of actually doing tapping. That's the most general one, but yeah, it's you make it your own. You do have to always deal with the negative, which some people may struggle with, but that's okay. You know, you just deal with how you're feeling in the moment, and that in itself can make a really big difference.
It can be quite emotional when you first and you deal with that negative to start with. It can be quite emotional. I have had like friends who said to me that it's made them cry.
Yeah.
And even when we were doing that just now, it brought up some of my feelings from how I felt when I was kind of really ill at the time.
Yeah.
And that kind of I had that kind of lump in my throat a little bit of like, gosh, yeah, it really was quite bad, and I have come a long way with just doing these kind of things. It's made a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely have come such a long way that you can recognize that as well now. You've got to that point where you can use these techniques and you think it's okay. that's coming up for me, but you know that you've got these tools to help you actually just get rid of it. You don't have
Yeah,
to keep putting it back in that box for another day. You can just let it go. And then over time of using tapping, you're changing your neural pathways. They can't go back to these feelings anymore because they're no longer there. You've dealt with them. So it
yeah,
helps you move forward with almost like a clean slate. So your stress response starts to be different because it can't keep going back to the same messages from your past, because you're starting to diffuse and reduce the memories of your stress.
yeah, yeah. I've really, it's probably out of all the techniques that I use, and I do use quite a few different ones, it's probably my favorite, I think.
Yeah.
So I do like do the meditation and the breathing exercises, but I kind of EFT is really, I find it so effective.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I love that you use it, and you use it with your clients too, don't you? You
Yeah,
help
it's something
them.
I recommend most of my clients. If obviously autoimmune stress is a massive issue, Hashimoto's, it has specific impacts with Hashimoto's, um, and learning to deal with it and learning different techniques. I always recommend like things like meditation and yoga and kind of breathing, but EFT is definitely kind of in there. And something I recommend to most of my clients is not to just rely on one technique, to kind of have a whole kind of bag full of techniques,
Yeah.
because you may find one day one's not working for you as well as it normally does. So kind of pull another out of the bag and kind of use that. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the one thing you don't want to feel like is that things are starting to get out of control for you again. So
Yeah,
that's always
exactly.
good to have a selection in your toolbox. And
Yeah.
actually, another tip for people, if you're struggling to sleep, you can use it in bed, but you don't need to be doing the actual tapping motion because that can be quite agitating when you want to rest. You can just think about the stress of not sleeping, and you can just use one word. So it could just be I just can't sleep. It could just be sleep. So you start by just thinking, saying, even though I can't sleep, um, I accept myself. And you just, it's called tap and breathe. So you just hold and then breathe in and breathe out on that point, but you don't need to tap. And then you move to the next point, and you could just repeat the word in your head, sleep, because that's the issue. And just do that. Touch and breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Next point. Think of the word sleep. Breathe in, breathe out, because you're tuning into the issue, and you're making that connection with the point. So that's another good tip for people if they're just having a bad night and they can't get off to sleep.
That's amazing. That I didn't know that. So that's kind
Yeah.
of another thing I can add to my bag of
Yeah,
tricks.
and also if anyone's started to get used to using a bit of tapping, and you can actually visualize that point on your body, you can even do it without touching at
Okay.
all. But that's if you've had some practice at it, and you can really almost imagine the tapping on the points. But that's a bit further down once you've started to get used to just actually using the tapping yourself.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me on.
No problem. And if anybody wants to know any more about EFT, you can find Rachel on Instagram at
Yeah.
Rachel Turner Wellness, or on her website, which is rachelturnerwellness.co.uk. Is that right?
Yeah, and
Um,
every Wednesday at 11 a.m. GMT, I do a quick live tapping session, different topic every week. It takes about 7 or 8 minutes, and I pop them on my news feed as well. So, oh, thanks, Kim. So, if anybody wants to practice, they can look through my news feed and my IGTV for little videos they can just join along with and try it out for themselves.
yeah, I recommend that. I usually try and join in if I'm able to. If I'm not in a meeting, I kind of always log in.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link up in my feed to Rachel if you've got any questions for her, or if you can't find Rachel, you can always drop me a message and I'll pass it on, and Rachel can then get back to you. So I just want to say thank you so much, Rachel, for kind of giving up your time and kind of explaining that and giving that demo. It was really helpful.
Oh, you are so welcome. If it means I get to hang out with you, I'm very happy.
Yeah, we've not done our Christmas Zoom thing yet, have
No,
we?
we haven't. That's a good point. No, we haven't. Okay, we might have to chase her up on that.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Okay.
Cool. Right, thank you.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, thanks for tuning in and to listening to myself and Rachel talking about stress and EFT and the impacts with Hashimoto's and the benefits. I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions for either myself or Rachel, feel free to drop us a message, either at the points that I gave you for Rachel previously, or you can private message me or contact me through my website, which is helenmallaburn.com. And if you want to know more about the impact of stress on Hashimoto's and how to recover your health and to finally beat those Hashimoto symptoms, then I can teach you exactly how to do this step by step in my one-to-one Hashimoto's healing program, full details of which are on my website, or again, you can drop me a message and I'm always happy to chat. Thanks for taking time to listen, and I look forward to hearing your questions.